Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be going over Spark AR Studio. Spark AR Studio is part of Facebook. It's a software I'm pretty sure they started in order to create an ease of use with creating filters for Instagram and Facebook, since Instagram and Facebook are both affiliated with each other. And it's just a really fun, kind of straightforward software. As you can see, they're showing lots of different examples here that you can use. And we're going to be going over a super simple, basic filter today. So there's a huge variation in the filters that you can create. Obviously, some are really easy, some are really complicated, but I want to start with the basics and then, eventually go into more complicated ones in the future. And if you haven't already downloaded the software, if you go on to Google and you look up Spark AR Studio, you should be able to just download it. It has the download link right there. And I'm creating this video on, what's the date today? December 5th, 2020. So this is important because the software is always changing. When I learned Spark AR Studio months back, there was a bunch of different features which have now moved or are not there anymore. So this is just something that you need to keep in mind if you're watching this video a year away, 2 years away, and there's something that you're looking for that isn't there. That's just because it's a newer version you're likely using or an updated version. But anyway, I'm going to be going through the basics. So to start, you're going to click on New Project. And here it gives you 4 examples of different types of projects you can create. So they have plane tracking, target tracking, face tracking, blank project. And we're just going to go with the blank project. And when you open blank project, it takes you into this space. I'm not going to go through all the different features. I'm only going to touch on what's important for this project. But immediately you can notice that there's this lovely person demonstrating different head movements for you to test your filter on. So if you go up to, I believe it's video, you can change the person that you're demoing the filter on. So you can try different hairstyles, different, skin tones, all these different things. Someone with glasses, someone with facial hair. And you can even try it on yourself by clicking on the FaceTime HD camera, but I'll just leave it on the default person for now. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go up and click Add Object. The first thing you want to add is a face mesh, but they give you all sorts of options here that you can do. But for now, we're just going to do face mesh and click Insert. And yeah, it's a little bit creepy, but then what you're going to do is you're going to go and add an asset, and you're going to add a material. And material, I'm just going to name it flower because I think I'm going to create a flower filter. So with that, you are going to attach this face mesh to this material that you've just added. So you're going to go to face mesh, and then you're going to select material from this drop down right here and click flower. So that is the material you just created. Obviously, it's kind of Phantom of the Opera vibes, and you haven't added a face filter to this. This is just the blank material. So originally with Spark AR Studio, they had an option, I think it was under Project or Help, where you could go directly and download the face assets in order to do this. But now it's just gone. So I'm just going to go back to Safari. I'm going to go back to Google. And I'm going to look up Spark AR face assets. And then I think it's the first link. And you're going to scroll down, and it's not the most obvious link, but it's the link that says download the face reference assets here. So the nice thing about Spark AR is that it gives you the ability to create these filters, and you don't have to use really advanced software. They've created everything for you. So I'm going to go into my downloads. I'm going to go into face assets. And it gives you two options, which is mesh or texture. So you're going to go into textures, and the two faces that you can select from are face feminine and face masculine. It honestly does not matter which one you pick. It doesn't make a difference. So I'm just going to click this one, and I'm going to import it into Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop, there's an alternative software you can use called Photopea, and I can go over that a little bit later, but I'm just going to go over something basic. Now that I have my face open in Photoshop, essentially what this is a target for you to create a filter. So you don't want to work on this layer because you're going to ultimately export this image as an invisible PNG, and it's just going to be whatever you created and not the face behind it. So you want to make sure that you're creating an additional layer so you're not working on the face. There's lots of different options. Obviously, you can do like painting and export this as a filter, and that totally works too. But I'm just going to do an emoji filter because it's really easy. So I'm going to look for a flower emoji. And I'm going to go to images. And to make life easier so you don't have to erase a background, you can go to tools, color, transparent. So which one is nice? I kind of like this one. So I'm going to download it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the flower I just downloaded. So I'm going to go to downloads. I'm just going to drag and drop it on here. I'm just going to press shift and scale it. I'm going to make two little flower cheeks. So I just put that one there. I'm going to duplicate it. Press Command T to transform, and then move it over here. So now I have two little flower cheeks. So I'm going to make the background invisible, and I'm going to say File, Save As, and I'm going to save it to the desktop as a PNG file. And I'm just going to say None. And now I can quit Photoshop. Now, when I go into Spark AR, if I go to my materials and click flower, you're going to go to texture and say new texture. Go to the desktop, select your PNG that you just created, open. My computer's a little bit slow, and there it is. So now you can see that the thing you just created is now on the face. And obviously, it's kind of a little bit far away for me. I would like it to be more central on the cheeks, so I can always go back and change that. But for the purposes of this exercise, it's totally fine. And as I mentioned earlier, if you do not have Photoshop, you can use Photopea. So if you go on the internet and you look up Photopea, it's going to be the first line, the first thing you search. And Photopea is kind of like Photoshop, but free online. It's definitely not as comprehensive, but it definitely has all the same capabilities. So what you're going to do is you're going to press File, Open, and you're going to go back to Downloads and go back to your face assets and select your face texture. And I'm just going to do the same exercise. I'm actually going to recenter the flower so it's more what I like. So I'm just going to press File, Open, and Place. I'm going to go back to Downloads, Unnamed PNG. So I'm just going to scale this. Put it right here. I'm going to duplicate it. Just going to right click, duplicate layer. Then I'm going to press, oops, that is not what I meant to press. I'm just going to move it along. I just accidentally opened another tab because I pressed Command T, which is the shortcut in Photoshop, which is Command Transform. But I guess here you can just click on just make sure you're clicked on the layer and then you can move it. Okay, great. So I'm just going to turn that one off. I'm going to say File, Export as PNG. I'm going to save it as the maximum quality, press Save, save to the downloads. Great. So now I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to remove this by just pressing Delete. I'm going to go back to Flower, Texture, New Texture, and Downloads. The new one I just created, I'm just going to double click it. and now it's a filter. And I'm definitely a lot more happy with this one. It's kind of more centered than the other one. And I'm just gonna pause the face. So that is the basics of creating a face filter. If you want to upload this to Instagram or Facebook, what you want to do is you want to go to File, Upload and Export, and it's going to try and calculate the file size. I've actually run into a lot of issues with this before where the file was too big and I had to compress some things. But since this is a really simple filter, you shouldn't have an issue with having a file that's too big. So once it's all calculated and approved, you just press upload, and then there's a couple things you need to fill out, like the preview image and a preview video and a description, and it's all up to you what you want. And then it says it takes up to 2 weeks to approve it, but honestly, it's a lot quicker than that. And that is the basics of creating an Instagram filter. Thanks for joining. I hope you learned something.